Guys, wanted to make this video. I've been waiting to make this. I was to do this. I just been this. This is Modern Warfare 3. We're just at the main menu. Been at the main menu for an hour, so you can see. I'm gonna post this on YouTube. Post this on TikTok. Sorry, because again, my phone has no storage. So this video is gonna be a little bit longer one. Again, I'm definitely going to make another version of this, right? But I wanted to talk about the pragmatic reasons of not banning abortions for one specific reason. Because I was on panel with this guy in this Pro-Life Live. He was saying he agreed that morally elective abortions were wrong. I think a viable child, so I mean, maybe he might have a cutoff of viability, or I think he's just against elective abortions just in general. But he had a problem. Well, if you ban abortion, women are going to get in trouble for miscarriages, the typical fear-mongering jibber-jabber. And I think this point is terrible. Now, I will say it is hard to determine, because of the unique case of pregnancy, it is hard to determine if a woman had an abortion or just a miscarriage, right? It's hard to determine this, right? And he did make a point that all miscarriages are not necessarily spontaneous, right? Because a woman could get into an accident and a miscarriage happens, right? I think they meant spontaneous abortion, right? I think that would be a better word, because a miscarriage just means they just die in utero, right? They unalive in utero, right? And stillbirth is later in pregnancy. So the problem I have with this view is that this is a very common question, and I'm definitely going to make another video about this, but the investigations, would a woman be investigated, right? But when would you investigate a woman? Well, you only investigate a woman if they have probable cause, right? So in the current legal case, right? What constitutes probable cause? I'll give you an example, right? If somebody has a crowbar and they're trying to pry a window open, it is absolutely reasonable for a police officer to investigate, right? It's absolutely reasonable. Because it's suspicious. Why would a person have a crowbar and be trying to break into somebody's house? Yeah, because it's suspicious, right? What's not reasonable is, let's just say you see somebody just walking around in their backyard, and there actually is a video. I forget his name. He's like a black lawyer, right? He works with Law by. He's in the same organization as what's his name? Law by Mike. Sorry for the background noise, by the way. But here's the thing, right? It's unreasonable to assume that if a person is walking into their house back and forth in a circle in their backyard that they're doing a criminal activity. However, right, as I said, it is reasonable to assume that if you're breaking into a house, if you have a crowbar and trying to pry open a window, it's completely reasonable to think that you're trying to break in, even if it's your own house, because a person doesn't know that's your house. A random Joe on the street does not know that's your house that you're trying to break in, right? At face value. So, if a woman has a miscarriage, they're not going to investigate every single miscarriage. Just like, let's say somebody's grandfather passed away, right? Because the elderly are very expected to die. Like, if you're 99 years old, there's no reason to do an investigation, because if you're at that age, it's expected that you would die. There's no reason to suspect there's foul play. Now, there would be foul play if something suspicious happens. Like, for example, let's just say you have all of this mercury around, and you see like these containers that you're putting into these feeding tubes. Like, let's just say there's mercury pumping through a feeding tube, right? That is suspicious. That's why do you have mercury? Why? Why do you have this poisonous, like this toxic substance, right? Maybe that would cause reasonable suspicion, right? They're doing something out of the ordinary. If a woman has a miscarriage, that's why the fear-mongering of people like, well, if a woman has a miscarriage, they're going to be afraid of going to the doctor. No, they're not. Number one, it's not illegal for abortion in any state for women to be charged. It's also not illegal for a miscarriage either. A doctor's not going to assume, oh, you had an abortion when you had a miscarriage. They're not going to assume that. There would be probable cause. I'll give you an example as probable cause, right? An example of probable cause is for abortion. A woman, let's just say a man, and this has happened in many cases, a man in a relationship, right? The woman, he somehow gets the text message of a woman talking to her friends, oh, I'm going to get this abortion, I need you to help me, right? And this has happened in court, right? He didn't have a case against him, obviously, because it was legal. The case is, okay, because you have this, then this is probable cause, this is evidence that can be used against you. You're literally searching, especially if you have like a search bar, right? If you have Google, if there's on your search history, oh, how to get an abortion when it's legal, that's more evidence. Now, it doesn't prove that a woman had an abortion, but it is evidence that can be used in court. Whereas, it's kind of like in Casey Anthony. I believe Casey Anthony even Googled, with her own, I think she Googled on the internet, chlorophyll or chloroform, I think, right? So that is evidence that can be used. You have this piece that can be used against a woman. Now, I'm not saying every single case you're going to find that, but there are definitely cases where that will be, that's going to be certain. If you Google, oh, how do you get, abortion is illegal, how do I get an abortion? That's search history that you're going to use in court. Again, doesn't prove 100% certainty that she had one, but that is evidence that can be used. But the most important part of this piece, like I said, I'm going to make a much more in-depth video, but the most important part is that it doesn't really matter, because we can agree normatively, at least for a majority of abortions, we can agree, right, that the action is so immoral. That's a risk we're willing to take. Just think about it. And I saw, as I mentioned, I was talking about the Trent Horn not so erudite debate on the whatever podcast. I recommend watching that debate, right? They talked about this, and Trent Horn made a good point, right? He used baby shaken syndrome, right? There are people who are in jail for that. I think there was a case recently. A man was going to be, I think he was executed for baby shaken syndrome. But that's so hard to prove, right? Because babies, we know that unfortunately babies do die randomly even after they're born, right? There might be an investigation, right? But there are people who are in prison because of it. Let's just say child molestation. We know that there are parents who are in jail for child molestation. They have been falsely accused. It's ridiculous to believe that's never happened before. And how do you even prove these things? That's another question. We know it's very, very, very difficult. But that's not a reason to go against it, to not have these laws. If that's the case, right, we might as well not have any laws at all. And this guy seemed like he pretty much seemed like a utilitarian, right? You're saying this would be a bad effect on society, but your logic, your reasoning, your justification for not criminalizing it would basically lead to anarchy. Because if you're worried about people getting thrown in prison for doing a false crime, for being falsely accused, you might as well not have any laws at all. And I think that's the reason. That's something to tie into the death penalty as well. I don't think I'm going to say that for another video, but that's a problem that we have applying it to the legal system. That's not a reason to get rid of it entirely. Like, yeah, we know people who get falsely accused for rape and murder. We know that. We know that, right? But that's because it's so egregiously immoral. That's a risk we're willing to take. I think everybody's willing to take it. Let's be consistent. Like, in principle, we know these are different things descriptively, but in principle, right? And you even admitted abortion was immoral, right? So you agree, right? You agree yourself. So the thing is with the crime is it's so immoral. That's a risk we have to be willing to take. Like, are you going to apply this logic consistently? Okay, let's not have murder laws because there are people, a lot of people, who go to jail for crimes that they didn't commit. Should we get rid of murder? No, it just gives us a reason that we have to be extremely careful, and the burden of proof is very high. Mind you that, you know, we still have innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt as well. So a woman, most of them are probably not going to go to jail anyways because there's not going to be enough evidence to charge them, right? I mean, not charge them, to convict them, right? In many cases, they may be charged, but they won't be convicted, right? And it has to be beyond reasonable doubts. You know, for a criminal case, especially for a murder charge, beyond reasonable doubt, the burden of proof is very high for a criminal case. So even if they are charged, they're not going to be convicted. And I understand that the criminal case is going to be very taxing for the mind. Obviously, it's a very stressful scenario. But this just seems like another goofy pro-choice excuse, because he's really pro-choice. I think if you're normatively pro-life and pragmatically pro-choice, I still think you're pro-choice. It's just a goofy excuse not to ban it. Like, we know every single law, every single crime, we're well aware of that innocent people go to jail. But it's not enough to not ban it. The action is so egregiously immoral. It has to be stopped. It has to. Okay, that. Unfortunately, that for those people, that's unfortunate, and of course, it sucks to be executed for a crime, or you didn't commit, right? Be falsely accused. I agree, but I think this action is so egregious it has to be stopped. Like, there's just no choice. We have no choice. Like I said, sorry for the background noise, but there is literally no choice because you're literally killing a child that is absolutely worth the risk of innocent people going to jail. What do you want? Do you want to live in a society where innocent people go to jail, which is impossible for all crimes, or do you want to live in a society where rape is legal, murder is legal? You're the one who is agreeing the reason why we have rape laws and murder laws is because society, it causes like negative. It's if we have people raping or killing each other left and right, that's a negative society. We agree. Oh my gosh, we're losing. We agree, right? Absolutely, we absolutely agree. But your view is just as bad because you're saying that you're saying that we should just get rid of laws in general, right? Of course we won't. Which I think is delusional. If you live in a society, again, just ask yourself that question. Do you want to live in a society where rape and murder is legal? Or do you want to live in a society where it's illegal and people go to jail, people go to jail for crimes they didn't commit? There's going to be absolute chaos if we live in this very anarchy-like society. That's what you're implying, right? Your arguments just logically follows that, okay, we shouldn't ban abortion because innocent women are going to go to jail. Okay, we shouldn't make rape and murder legal. Because, again, innocent people go to jail for that all the time, for every crime. Not strong enough. So that's my video there. I'm going to make another one, but it's like 13 minutes there. So you saw my gameplay. So I'm going to make another one absolutely based on this, but I had to address this.